On June 29, 1921, two sailors from the three-masted bark Pourquoi-Pas set foot on an isolated rock a few hundred miles northwest of Ireland, Rockall. This rock had been an enigma to science for over 20 years. The Rockall affair had begun in the previous century. Two ships of the British Navy, the Endymion and then the Porcupine, managed years apart to land several of their men on this steep rock constantly swept by sea spray. They brought back, as a curiosity, some fragments torn from the rock. The samples were examined, and it turned out that the rock was unlike any known rock in geology. It was even concluded that this rock was unique in the world. It was given the name Rockallite. Two British expeditions, which set out to reach the rock at the end of the 19th century, failed due to sea conditions. In the summer of 1921, Jean-Baptiste Charcot's oceanographic ship had set sail from St. Malo to try to find the key to the enigma. Thanks to luck, he put an end to the Rockall enigma and settled a score with Rockallite. It was discovered that Rockallite was only a vein in the granite mass of the rock. Charcot had summed up the results of the mission with a joke. Rockallite is Rockall's beauty spot. The Pourquoi-Pas was Dr. Charcot's fourth ship to bear this name. It had succeeded a 15-ton cutter launched in 1893, then a 120-ton schooner in 1896, which Charcot would only keep for 1 year. In January 1903, Dr. Charcot, who was also a great navigator, placed an order with the St. Malo shipyards for a three-masted schooner intended for a scientific voyage to the North Pole. From that moment on, the name of Jean-Baptiste Charcot would be invariably associated with polar expeditions. But a financial problem tarnished Charcot's fine project, and the Pourquoi-Pas was renamed the Francais on the slipway. On August 15, 1903, Charcot nevertheless set sail from Le Havre, heading for the Antarctic for an expedition that would last 2 years, with many misadventures. Jean-Baptiste Charcot returned to France in June 1905, but very quickly decided to return to the Antarctic, and for this second expedition, another vessel was laid down at the Francois Gautier shipyards in St. Malo. Started in 1907, the Pourquoi-Pas was launched in 1908. With a length of 42 meters, a width of 9.49 meters, and depth of 4.68 meters, it measured 449 tons and carried 34 crew members and 4 or 5 scientists. It was equipped with a 2-cylinder compound steam engine, which gave it a power of 500 horsepower and a speed of 7.5 knots. With previous experience in the Antarctic ice, Charcot had designed his new vessel for long-term expeditions in polar environments. Built entirely of twisted wood, ready to receive the double planking with blowing from the waterline, the Pourquoi-Pas was built entirely of oak, apart from the shallow elm. Steel diagonals, spaced every meter, connect the frames together, thus increasing the solidity of the ship. The front, in order to face the ice, is reinforced on the outside by metal plates, and the caulked paneling constitutes a double hull. It is Charcot, always concerned about the well-being of his men, who designs the interior fittings himself. For this second polar expedition, the new Pourquoi-Pas left Le Havre on August 15, 1908, wintered on Petermann Island, where he completed his cartographic documents, then reached Alexandra Land and discovered the island that would bear his name, Charcot Land. Back in France in June 1910, Charcot had been weakened by scurvy. He returned with a considerable harvest, oceanographic measurements, salinity, soundings, meteorological records, a study of tides, a study of magnetism, zoology and botany collections entrusted to the museum and the Oceanographic Institute of Monaco, and the cartographic survey of 2,000 kilometers of coastline. In 1912, the Pourquoi-Pas became the first training ship of the French Navy. On this occasion, her hull was repainted black. It would return to white from 1918 because Charcot once again carried out scientific missions with the ship in the North Atlantic, the English Channel, the Mediterranean, and the Faroe Islands, mainly for studies of lithology and underwater geology by means of dredging, for which Charcot had developed the equipment and methods. From 1925, having reached the age limit, Charcot lost command of the ship, but remained on board as head of scientific missions. The ship, commanded by the crew officer Laconia, made multiple voyages to the Arctic ice. The painter Marin Marie embarked in 1925 and took part in 2 Arctic campaigns, from where he brought back numerous sketches and drawings of his surveys. In 1926, Charcot, with the Pourquoi-Pas, explored the eastern coast of Greenland and brought back an abundant harvest of fossils and numerous samples of insects and flora. In 1928, he took part in the search for the seaplane lost at sea, carrying the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, the first man to reach the South Pole. In 1934, 1935, 1936, the Pourquoi-Pas transported Paul-Émile Victor's polar missions to Greenland. In 1936, at the age of 69, Charcot was preparing for what he thought would be his last voyage. The Pourquoi-Pas is old, so am I, and above all, no one cares. The aim of the mission was to pick up the members of the Paul-Émile Victor expedition in Greenland. On the way back from Greenland, the boat stopped in Iceland. On the morning of September 16, 1936, the oceanographic ship of Dr. Jean-Baptiste Charcot sank near the Icelandic coast. After a storm that lasted 12 hours, the Pourquoi-Pas broke up on reefs off the coast of Iceland, not far from Reykjavik. The shipwreck left 23 dead, 17 missing, and only 1 survivor, the helmsman Gonadek. Bodies were washed up on the coast, including that of Charcot, mixed with the debris and wreckage of the Pourquoi-Pas. A pioneer of contemporary oceanography, Charcot is part of the line of great discoverers and explorers of the polar regions, both a sailor and a scientist, whose campaigns were carried out in conjunction with establishments such as the Museum and the Hydrographic Service of the Navy.